Good morning and good afternoon to all of you, depending on the condition in your area. As I work for various areas, not only for geosciences, but also for disaster management and engineering projects. During this period, I've come across various issues which require attention in our geosciences and geoengineering streams. So I would be just focusing on some of the issues. This is one of the photographs of the infamous flash flood that took place in June 2013 in Garhwal, Himalaya, where both Bhagirathi and Alkananda rivers they meet together, and you can see the condition of the water due to flash floods in this area, and lot of housing is there adjacent to these bank of the rivers. And if you go to the upslope sides, I'm showing one of the images from our one of the hilly cities, Shimla. You can see we are developing both horizontally and vertically very intensively. So I'm trying to drive your attention that we are going for large intensive developments in terms of traditional buildings and also in terms of high-rise RCC framed structures. This is again from Himalayan part. That was from the northwest Himalaya, and this is from northeastern Himalaya. So you can see we are trying to take the advantages of the latest technologies, information, and building materials in order to make our lives more comfortable. But while interfering with the nature, you can see one of the hill slopes I am showing from another state called Uttarakhand, where a lot of foothill buildings have come up, which has actually destroyed the natural forest cover and also the natural drainage systems. I'm showing a photograph just a day before. You can see the next day. How this development in the foothills actually led to a major landslide from the top of the hill, which engulfed almost more than 400 houses, along with the national highway and other infrastructure. Similarly, I'm just showing you a comparative example of the Kedarnath flash tragedy in 2013 and climate change, which is another parameter which is driving the disasters nowadays very aberrantly, which was not expected and were uncertain, also experiencing disasters because this was one of the high altitude desert area experienced very heavy rainfalls and caused this kind of devastation in the Ladakh area called Leh. And this was a situation subsequent to the disaster. Another parameter which is actually aggravating our problems of disasters is urbanization. We are going very fast in urbanization, and that's also leading to concentration of population, which is vulnerable in nature in the susceptible terrains. So these are main parameters. That's why we need to bring ethics into our practices, whether related to geosciences or disaster management. I'll just mention about what we feel about ethics in our terms are the best ways that human beings should try to endeavor to live, to judge what is right and what is wrong in a particular circumstance. So what we expect from our professional scientists, social workers and disaster management is their obligation to the society in a given specific situation to follow certain actions in their own domains with moral values, principles and codes. Then to resolve their questions, today I was having an interview with the All India Radio where we were discussing about the frequency, rising frequency of earthquakes in Delhi area. In the last 2-3 months, we have almost felt more than a dozen of tremors due to earthquakes in Delhi region. And this was a issue for the media, for the public and the concerned agencies about whether the earthquakes, a major earthquake is likely to happen and what kind of consequences can be expected in our region. So these questions are not as easy as they are posed because they require a lot of inspection, information and investigations at larger scales in the ground. So we do have some information and do have some reliability in our forecast and warning system with respect to spatial predictions. However, the temporal predictions are yet very difficult. So in order to resolve those questions which are posed by our administration, governance, and society or the public, has to be answered with credibility of scientists among society. So we have to see the concepts such as good and evil, right and wrong, virtue and vice, justice and crime. If something goes wrong without validation and adequate confirmation from the scientific facts, it will create panic and can cause chaos amongst the society. Well been defined as an interdisciplinary area of earth and planetary sciences as well as social sciences in terms of ethics. It deals with human thinking and acting in relation to the significance of earth system science, society, and the nature. So it is applicable in all geoscientific fields, whether it is related to mining, exploration geology, engineering geology, environment, or disaster management. Why this was required? Just I am showing you that there was a consideration of integrating science with the society with a code of ethical practices. So if we develop something which can make our scientists, particularly the geoscientists and engineers, accountable with transparency of information and their reliability of the facts, that should be there. So to be covered by all disciplines. So it covers all geosciences, geotechnique, technology, and geoengineering for geoethics. Now what we find normally, the problems of ethical problems in the scientific world as cases of plagiarism, cases of fabrication and falsifications, cases of non-publication of data. Sometimes we do have reliable, adequate, fact-based data, but it is not allowed to be published. So therefore, the fake and rumors take place of the facts and the useful data. Faulty data gathering processes. So sometimes we are not able to actually get the data correctly, and therefore the input goes wrong, and hence the output also becomes wrong. Poor data storage and retention, misleading authorships, and device publication practices. I just suggested 10 C's in one of my papers published with IIPG, where I mentioned that in case of disaster risk reduction and resilience, if we take care of these 10 C's, we can ensure ethical practices in disaster management. And these 10 C's include clarity. We should be very clear in our communications. What we are trying to communicate, it should not be misunderstood or have a conflict or bias or dubiousness in communication. Second is communication. Various modes of communication can be utilized, not just one mode. Nowadays, digital communications are preferred over other communications. So we can try for audio, visual, print, digital, and other kind of communication means. Competence. Competence of the person who is communicating, competence of the person who is executing the task is equally important. And we should see that if a task is assigned or allocated, particularly in disaster scenarios where there is a crisis, we should have competent people who have skills, education, and training in the required field. Sometimes people do have competence, but they don't have confidence. Confidence is equally important, because if you lose confidence, our actions can go wrong. Similarly, credibility. We should always take care of our credibility amongst our colleagues, professionals, as well as society, media, administration, and governance. So whatever we tell, we should not go emotional. We should see it from objective point of view and should give fact-based information so that our credibility and trust is not lost. Cooperation is required among different organizations, different professionals, and sectors. This is very important. No individual sector may be competent to carry out all kind of works. So we have to have cooperative works together. For this, collaborations are invited. Right at the time when the idea is conceived, it is better to collaborate and give them the right kind of credibility for their works. Coordination. is very another important parameter which is in disaster risk reduction, that if coordination lacks, and it is from most of our studies in post-disaster situations, that there is a lack of coordination which require humbleness, patience, and right way of communications with your colleagues, both horizontal, vertical, as well as diagonal. Command and control systems. Without that, no the work can be efficiently done. So there has to be an adequate command and control system. In India, we are following incident response system, which is very effective. Since time is short, I will not go in more details. But another 10 principles of scientific objectivity, I would say, is required, that you don't see from subjective point of view, look at from an external point of view in an objective equanimity. That means you should not become panicky and with anxiety or stress and put up certain things out of that. You should keep a balance in your perception to the problem and then talk about it. It will give you a clear view and you will be able to express it better. Impartiality, maybe you are part of the problem or you are part of the response system, but we should look at it from impartial point of view so that it doesn't affect. It should be completely unbiased and impermanence. Things are not static, they are dynamic in nature, they will change with time. So we should be able to accept if in a given situation we have made a statement and the situation has changed, our statement can also change. Nothing is permanent in this world except change itself. Accountability and leadership. These are the 10 scientific principles that need to be followed. So now from IPG, I have a request that let's develop international ethical standards and guidelines for our professional colleagues, how we can work with society, media, and other professionals, which can be based on conventions, religious beliefs, and laws. So these are some another 10 parameters for standards I am proposing: honesty, freedom, carefulness, openness, credit, education, social responsibilities, legality of our views and expressions and facts, respect for other subjects and opportunities for the fair works. This is a diagram I have taken from the net, where there has to be a linkage between professionalism, ethics, society, media, governance, and administration, so that we follow the right kind of practices in our education, in our training, in our professions. With these words, I'll conclude this presentation. And no single organization, no individual can do it alone. We have to build partnerships with all and create some standards, principles, and codes of our ethical practices so that all can follow and learn from that. With these words, I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity and also thank my colleagues from IIPG Italy to join us in this international symposium. I thank INIDM, MIT University, and all others who have joined with us and help us in hosting this webinar. Thank you very much.